That brings us to the Los Angeles Clippers, which felt like kind of a by default one.
Eric Bledsoe? Yeah, I got you. I'm with
Yeah, definitely Eric Bledsoe. It was between him and Yogi Ferrell, right?
They signed Yogi Ferrell?
I think so.
All right, well,
I'm
anyway.
looking at him on multiple depth charts, so unless I'm giving false information to the world here.
Well, then it's obviously him. But yeah, I
No,
thought
I mean, it was,
he's
in
on
all
a non-guaranteed
seriousness.
deal. That's what it is. So you're right.
Yeah.
But anyway, carry on.
In all seriousness, it felt like it had to be between Luke Kennard and Terance Mann. And I'm going to go with Mann based on the 3-point shooting and the shot creation that we saw in the playoffs. I can see him carving out a significantly bigger role while Kawhi Leonard is out of action and not really ceding a spot in the rotation. I think Kennard is still more of a specialty weapon meant to be deployed in smaller spurts. And I think that Mann can legitimately become a part of this team's core. Am I confident in that? No, not really. There's way too much volatility to his game. It's been far too small a sample of him playing at a well above replacement level. But I just don't know who else to pick here.
Especially because we're not picking rookies. They had sneakily just a really good draft. I thought the Knicks should have taken the swing on Keon Johnson. They did not. I love that from the Clippers. Maybe he actually gets playing time with Kawhi out. Can't pick him. Brandon Boston Jr., that was another guy, just sort of a 2-3, that's going to give you like a lot of different types of looks. And I'd be curious to see. I doubt he gets real playing time, but I thought there was a really nice pick in, I think it was the 50s, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, so it has to be
Jason Preston too. I really like Jason Preston.
I don't know enough about him, in full disclosure, but I do agree that I think maybe if you really had faith, you could go with Justice Winslow here, because there will maybe be minutes for him if they don't want to play Keon Johnson, if they don't want to play Brandon Boston Jr., Kawhi's out. There might be some minutes up for grabs there. Even when Justice Winslow was at his best, he needed to have the ball in his hands on offense without actually hitting off the dribble jumpers. And that's tough for me to buy into, even if you like the defensive versatility, which I think is fine. And we have more evidence that he's not going to hit a high percentage of his catch and shoot jumpers than we do that he will. And even when he did that year in Miami, he wasn't taking a ton of them. And I'm not saying he needs to take a ton of them, but that's why I'd steer away from him. With Terance Mann, the only thing I'd add with you is I absolutely think he, like you, has a chance to become part of the core. And I would probably even bet on it happening, just because I think he also showed that he can kind of duck in and do some nice things off the ball on offense. What's really going to be key for him, and that's actually going to be easier next season or the following season after next season, when Kawhi is back and you have Paul George there, his defense is just not at the level that it probably needs to be. He'll compete, but he's not necessarily huge, and he's not, there's some ball watching there with him. I'm curious to see what type of defensive matchups he pulls this season and what types of lineups he's working in. But the offensive opportunity should be there, because even with bringing back Reggie Jackson, even after trading for Eric Bledsoe, even after having Luke Kennard, who I think he's a fine candidate. He had some nice stretches last year with the Clippers, but he also had these protracted periods of the Clippers don't even want to play him. And so that's
including in the playoffs.
Yeah. And that's why he seems too risky of a pick. And I think he's way more limited, I'll say, on defense than Terance Mann. So maybe we just see a lot of improvement from Terance Mann on defense this year. He's young enough. He doesn't have that NBA experience to where you can say, oh, he's not going to improve. If I had to actually make the bold prediction, I view Terance Mann as a part of their core. And maybe I'm overreacting to what we saw in the playoffs, but I think he ends up being just a great kind of guy who can toggle between different things on offense. And if you have a Kawhi and Paul George healthy at the same time, all of a sudden his defense just isn't as problematic, and it might verge on not bad. So I'm very curious to see what he looks like 2-3 years from now. The offensive opportunity next season, though, I think is the primary jet fuel for his selection here.